Hello! Hello. I'm EnterElysium, and Long War 14, Beta 14 is out! Came out like 12 hours ago. So, Beta 14 is out, that means my series will be starting up again, but let's just go through all the changes there have been, because there have been a number of changes. Beta 14 is pretty big. So we'll go through what has changed and what that really means, and I'll try and do it as quickly as possible, but it probably will be a fairly long, boring video for those of you who, are not desperately into XCOM. However, you are, fairly interested in XCOM, or you're interested in what this will mean between the two series and what will change, then yes, this is going to be an interesting video, although it will be me just reading off a screen. So we'll go into the changes, and I've highlighted the ones that are important. So, Beta 14 should not require a campaign restart. A new campaign is recommended for a balanced and less buggy experience. And then it goes through the number of issues that you will have. So basically it means if you've got a Long War 13 playthrough, you can play it in 14. It's fine. It's important for me because I have a Twitch playthrough currently going on, XCOM Needs Twitch, and I kind of want to keep that one. So there are some head-causing crash deaths, which might be weird. Change them if you get them on the loadout screen. Perk trees might not take effect for existing soldiers. Yeah, sure. Mind control will lose the perk. So yeah, if you do have a soldier with mind control, you need to either relearn it or you need to give it using the console. And on classic and normal difficulties, new XCOM soldiers no longer get a defense bonus. Instead, the aliens get an equivalent aim penalty. So any existing soldiers, you have from Long War 13 who have those inbuilt defense bonuses, yeah, they're not gonna have a good time. They're gonna have a really good time because they're gonna have a bonus defense ability in addition to aliens having a negative to hit. So basically, they're gonna be really hard to hit by another maybe 10%. So it gives you a nice big advantage. I don't know if you're gonna edit it out or not. It says you should probably edit it out in the innies, etc. However, because I'm gonna be starting a new series for YouTube and I've got a series on running, I can't alter for both of them. I think the innie is to change the aim for the aliens or whatever, or to change the defense, whatever, overall, and I can't switch between the two series, so I'm probably going to be having really strong soldiers in my Twitch series, which is fine, because apparently Not So Long War is ridiculous. But yeah, that's the change. So basically, it's fully playable. You might want to tweak a few things if you're going from 13 to 14. So here are the changes, and there are some really big ones to start off with. Most maps will have start zones and escape LZs in new places. Thank God! Oh my God, this is really big. My biggest complaint about Enemy Unknown when it first came out was, there's not many maps, and honestly, they get a bit boring, and you do them over and over and over again. Enemy Within changed that by adding a lot more maps. But because Long War is a lot longer game and you end up with the same map over and over again, this is a really nice thing. It allows us to get some nice changes in. It allows us to get some sort of new experiences in with even the same map. Starting in a new place really does change up the map quite a lot. I love that ability. And aliens will now sometimes attack your interceptor bases using a map previously only available in multiplayer games. So anyone who's played a multiplayer game in Enemy Within will probably have seen the symmetrical XCOM base map. And that symmetrical XCOM base map is now going to be the site of aliens attacking your interceptors. So basically, if you've got interceptors in a continent that you don't have your XCOM base in, so you've just got interceptors there, basically what will happen is the aliens will come and attack it. And if they win, they will destroy interceptors and they'll damage interceptors for the maximum possible time they can be repaired and some other stuff. And it's really bad. I'm not sure having another way to attack humans is going to be particularly great for us as human players, but that's going to be it. Honestly, I really like the idea that they can have a halfway house between normal missions on one side and attacking your base. Normal missions attacking your base. It's nice to have a halfway house where they'll be like, we'll attack your interceptor base. I like that. I can't wait to see how it plays out. It's going to be really interesting. Soldier hit points now displayed in tactical UI will differentiate between armor or item HP bonuses and permanent HP. Really good. Important for people who play Red Fog like me, where the health matters as opposed to armor, and important for knowing when your soldier's going to be down and out for a while because they've taken an actual wound as opposed to their armor. So what you have now is a health bar, and there'll be two different colors. And the first color will be item and armor granted health, and the second will be actual health, which really, really good. I love that lovely quality of life change. Absolutely love it. Reworked soldier sort in the barracks menu and reworked the engineering UI sort. Great. Particularly, engineering UI is quite nice because it's sorted by size and then alphabetically, so you can go through all the weapons and then you can go over the sidearms, etc. And the barracks menu, now instead of having to flick through all your soldiers who are active and fatigued mixed in, you now have soldiers who are active, soldiers who are fatigued, soldiers who are wounded down the bottom. Brilliant, absolutely makes it easier to spot who's available. Really nice. Adjusted scrolling behavior in strategy game and save game menus should be a lot easier to use now. Yes! Oh my god, we've had scroll wheels for 15 years, 20 years. Oh god, yes, absolutely love it. It's much easier than trying to click and then drag with the very small bar they have at the side. That's it, alright. Non-Iron Man games added a restart mission option to pause menu. Okay, so this is going to be one that's going to split the community. Now, the reason I don't play Long War on Iron Man is because a few reasons. Firstly, YouTubing, you want to have backups in case something goes wrong, and Long War goes wrong a fair amount. If you're honestly playing Long War Iron Man, then you're a little bit crazy. But there's also the fact that, personally, for me, when I was playing Enemy Unknown for the first time and it first came out, I got to the very end, right before the final end of the entire mission, and I had a crash, and then the save was basically a bugged save where I couldn't actually go anywhere, I couldn't trigger the next event, and I had to restart everything. And that's the last time I played Iron Man. I'll never play Iron Man in the game again. So this gives us two abilities. Firstly, it gives us the ability that you can play Iron Man, and if you enter a bug situation, which will always trigger a bug, you can basically restart the entire mission, which is nice. And secondly, it gives you an honest save scumming method. Basically, people are very split about save scumming. People really hate it, and then some people are like, I just want to play a game and have fun. I don't want to lose everything of my 200-hour playthrough because I screwed up. Or I got really, really unlucky, although it would take a lot to get really unlucky, to that extent. So now you can actually just go, okay, instead of save scumming, load autosave, to get the same shot to actually hit, instead you can just say, okay, I'm not going to save scum this shot over and over again. What I'm going to do is I'm going to restart the entire mission. Which is fair. I mean, I don't mind this option being there at all. I mean, some people are probably going to complain about it, but I think more options to more people, if people wouldn't enjoy it that way, sure. I can understand it considering Long War takes a long time to go through. More inventory art, very nice. Particularly, I got confused when I looked at the saw and I was like, why is the saw in my item slot, not my gun slot? Oh, that's the ally bipod. Yeah, so more art is nice. Pre-mission squads are loaded blank, so instead of having to go clear across the entire board, they're already blank. And if you then start outfitting them and you go, oh, I need to change something, and you leave and then come back, instead of being reset, it will save. Absolutely love it. Lovely quality of life change. Completing the Exalt HQ will net 3 unique items, a very nice scope. And 2 items, one of which is a 20% bonus to XP and one of which is 20% bonus to Sci. Really nice. Really good. Love it. Nice change. People were ignoring the Exalt HQ. This means, for a start, I mean, if we just discuss the bonus XP, that's really nice because by that stage in the game, rookies can be a real drag, and it can be annoying to try and get some up to speed. And especially if you get, a couple of decent soldiers killed and you need to start training rookies, it can be a real slow down on your game. So a slight boost to that is nice from the 20% XP. And 20% Sci XP is really good because people were complaining that, Sci towards the end of the game could get very grindy. I haven't experienced it myself because I haven't ever got that far. But a lot of people have been saying it just gets so grindy. This is a lovely change, getting a nice be able to take an item and get a 20% boost to Sci. I like that. French translation now available. Probably doesn't matter to a lot of us, but for those of you who actually are native French speakers and want to play it in French and haven't been able to, this will mean the world to you. So there you go. Field Surgeon perk, which reduces wound recovery time after missions. Yes, thank you. Oh god, yes. Wound recovery time takes ages. It's nice to have a perk that can get rid of that, or at least decrease it somewhat. And now a lovely new perk, Hit and Run, which allows a free shot against flanked or exposed targets. Basically, it's a copy of Close Encounters, whereas Close Encounters was a free shot if they're within 4 tiles. This is a free shot if they're exposed or flanked. And it's for scouts and assaults and probably mechs. Now, I absolutely adore this, especially on scouts. Scouts, up until now, have been defined by their ability to get shot at, and that's pretty much it. I mean, I've joked about it all the time, you probably know. Scouts get shot at, that's what you do. You don't do pretty much anything else. You are taken for your ability to dodge bullets. Now it really actually gives them a bit more flavor. Now, scouts are meant to be, you're fast, they're meant to be running around the front, dodging fire, but also being able to, flank or whatever. But there is no point beyond the normal flank with scouts. I mean, beyond normal people flanking. Now with this perk, it really gives them that nice flavor that, you want to flank with your scout, you want to be able to get them to that position on the edge so that you can get that shot. I mean, it really plays into the flavor that they really should have had to begin with. I love this perk. It makes a lot of sense. Absolutely adore it. Fire in the Hole perk for Rocketeers, which adds an additional 10 aim for purposes of reducing rocket scatter if your soldier is not only moved. Yeah, nice. Love it. It's a good perk. It basically means that if you don't move, then you get plus 10 aim. Or, 1 tile less scatter. This will be important because there are some changes to Rocketeers. I'll explain when we get to them. Added 2 cheap base security projects which allow base security to automatically equip any spare laser rifles and phalanx armor during an Exalt HQ. They have to be spare. You don't get them for free. Really love it. Later on in the game with base assaults, security personnel basically become pointless. They're using ballistic weapons. They quickly become basically completely useless, to a certain extent at least. It's nice that they are now actually able, with just a couple of cheap projects, able to take your last weapons from your armory and go, okay, I will use this gun. It's lovely. It's something that I really, really have problems with vanilla about, because vanilla they suck. And it's a nice change for Long War, especially considering Long War makes it a bit harder and so on. It's a nice quality of life change. Sectoid Commander Crash has had an attempted fix. Now, a number of us, I've talked with other YouTubers, have had Sectoid Commander crashes, and probably a lot of you at home have, if you've played Long War. This is an attempted fix. Hopefully it will sort it. The second shot always missing bug from rapid fire. I believe that triggers if the second shot is 100% crit. That is now apparently attempted fix. It might not be perfect. Fixed. Aliens sometimes start out in view of the squad. Yes. No longer will you be stuck at the spawn zone with 3 berserkers right on top of you. Yeah, great. That's fixed. Good riddance. Sectoid commanders get Gunslinger, which does +1 damage and eliminates the aim penalty for pistols. However, they get -1 damage for their pistols. So in effect, what they've done is they've eliminated range penalties for sectoids, commanders, and seekers. I think this will make sectoids, at least in the late game, not as, it's sectoids, okay, meh. They'll actually be okay sectoids. Okay, I have to take them a bit seriously. However, I'm a little bit dubious about how that will change the early game. Because it applies throughout the game. It doesn't say here that it applies only late game, unless the perk only kicks in later on. I'm not sure about that. I hope it doesn't apply early game. High-cap magazines and autologo no longer use the lock and load perk, and they will stack with lock and load because they no longer use the perk. Nice. Great. Mech conversion will change. It's going back to how it was in 9A. Mechs, up until Long War 14, from 10 to 14, they used, basically, if you turn someone to mech, they'd re-roll their stats and keep a measure of high will. Now, the problem is, with a barracks full of, 40, 50 soldiers, you can take the cream of the crop and you can train them, and then the dregs, you turn into someone who doesn't need most of those stats. So if you've got someone with, high move but crap everything else, you're like, okay, you will probably be an assault or someone. Hopefully. But, you have the numbers that the RNG for bad stats wouldn't matter so much, in theory. But you have the numbers. Whereas with mechs, if you go, okay, I'm going to turn you into a mech, and they re-roll, and they get crap stats, that really is kind of a drawback. It's a massive handicap. And I think this is a change to that. It's basically saying, okay, we recognize you won't be turning that many people into mechs, and the RNG could really screw you. We'll make them fix stats. I like it. I think it makes complete sense from a game balance point of view. Be aware that a very high will, a measure of it, will be kept. So, there is at least some choice to picking soldiers. Skeleton key now consumed on base assault. In Long War 13, it was just sitting there and you could use it over and over again. Now you have to keep making a new skeleton key for each base assault. That's just a fix, which is nice. Added a series of restrictions for Overwatch all buttons. So basically, if you used Alt-O to Overwatch everyone in Long War, you could basically override the fact that people were panicking. And I have actually done that several times by mistake. Basically, if someone's panicked, that you could override them because the Alt-O would go, you have moves, 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 and it would go and Overwatch everyone, and it would also check the panic person. It would go, oh, panic person, you sort of have moves because you're not end of turn flagged or whatever, you can Overwatch, and it shouldn't do because they're panicked. That's fixed now. Battle scanners no longer occupy tile and make it impassable. I didn't know about this. This is probably a really nice change because that could be so much abused. I didn't know that was a thing, but that is so abusable. You could just, lock off corridors by chucking a battle scanner into them. Rocket launcher shot following a shredder rocket should now do proper damage. Okay, so this is one I haven't personally had, but I know a couple of YouTubers in particular have had some real issues with this. It's a nice change. It's been fixed out. I like it. Great. Nice. Another lovely bug that people have probably experienced. This one is a bug where if the escortee is hit by acid and can't extract, basically it would say, oh, abort mission, instead of actually, do you want to extract? I think this is the one that Northern Lion had in his playthrough. Someone should probably tell him that his saltiness has been avenged in the bug fixing. It's been partially fixed, so what you have to do is you basically have to get out of the zone and then go back in after reloading, I think. What else have we got? Collateral damage, which is basically a mech going boop, 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 and destroying cover, is now limited by the range of their boop, 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 weapon. It makes complete sense. That's good. Exalt shouldn't use steady weapon if they have no ammo. This is mainly to do with relays. If you hit a relay, it unloads every Exalt weapon on the map. And then in the next turn, Exalt half the time. Like some of them were like, steadying weapon. It's like, well, why are you steadying weapon? You're going to need to reload next turn. They should reload. Or chuck grenades because... but yeah, that's been fixed. That's nice. Civilians on terror missions cannot be randomly killed if they're within line of sight of one of your soldiers, regardless of whether that soldier can be seen. Okay, so the way civilians on terror missions work is that in the grey fog of war, randomly civilians will be killed, regardless of alien pods. Now, they will not be randomly killed if they are within line of sight distance of your soldiers, which is nice. It gives you the ability to actually get more civilians. Up until now, they've just been missions where, you will pretty much, unless you go balls to the wall and risk your squad, you will lose a large number of civilians depending on the map. This is a nice change. It allows you to actually have a little bit more variety in your, actual tactics rather than just, they're all going to die, let's just make sure we clear the map. You can actually, theoretically be like, right, okay, we're going to get near these soldiers, near these civilians, and we're actually going to, try and clear them. Mind Merge has been reworked. So previously, Mind Merge basically gave you health, and a bit like sectoids. If they have health missing, it would fill up that health and it would give you bonus health beyond that. That was basically abusable to a certain extent in prior to Beta 14. You could basically say, okay, I'm not going to take a medic, I'm just going to keep Mind Merging until we're back to full health. It wasn't optimal, but you could basically do infinite healing with it. Now it's changed it so it's damage reduction. Which is, completely understandable. It's not meant to be a replacement for having a medic. Significantly increased opportunity to get rewards for soldiers from council requests, particularly in the late game. Really good. In the late game, particularly if you're trying to take soldiers from rookie upwards, they're basically a massive liability, and it's nice to be able to get, requests, especially when, you've had your engineers and your scientists maybe maxed out. You don't need any more. It's nice to have some requests for actual soldiers for stuff. I love that change. It's a great change. I love it. Alien research bonus from dead and left behind soldiers is now 25% what it used to be. Yes! Thank you. Absolutely thank you. Right, so the drawback of losing an entire squad, or even just one soldier, is you no longer have that soldier. If you've aborted the mission or you had a squad wipe, you lose the kit, or you probably lose the kit. And aliens get a massive research bonus. So basically, that was meaning a squad wipe. Not only would you lose, a full squad, a full squad of armor, guns and items, and the aliens got a ridiculous amount of research. It was basically making it so technically you could come back, but it was basically almost impossible. Very, very difficult to come back from a squad wipe. Very difficult. The change here is so that if you lose soldiers, or if in fact if you have a squad wipe, it's not quite so bad. Squad wipe is still really bad. I mean, you lose your soldiers and you lose armor and weapons and items, and the aliens get a buff, but it's only the quarter of the buff it used to be. Particularly, this is important for, if you lose a soldier or two soldiers and you have to leave the map and be like, right, I have to bug out, rather than going, okay, well, now I have to fight because I don't want them to get that bonus to their research. Yeah, love the change. Makes it actually more balanced that, you can actually continue into a game after some setbacks, because you don't want one setback to ruin 150 hours of gameplay experience or whatever. Good change. Like the change. Not going to complain about that one. bear in mind that it has meant that I think aliens get a passive research buff just to keep up with where they originally were. So even if you don't lose any soldiers, aliens will now be slightly further ahead than where they would have been in Long War 13. Reworked UFO Panic and stuff. Okay, so basically the way it works is you have to get the UFO below 50% of health, and then they've only got 50-50 chance of bonus research. And you have to do damage, etc. to actually, stop panic from happening. It's a nice change, I guess, but it's more sort of a balancy, fiddly change. But it'll really flip up the air war again. Air war has to be... It's because of the small numbers of craft involved in air war, and because, RNG does play a high role with small numbers. It will make bigger changes than, my brief cursory glance at it will mean, but we'll get onto that. Primary weapon aim bonus penalties like +7 from the carbine or -7 from the heavy rifle no longer apply to rocket launchers. Okay, so Rocketeers were basically, up until now, it was take a rocket, take a scope, take a carbine, a laser carbine, because a laser carbine is +7 for the carbine, +8 for lasers, +15 in total. So what you'd have is +15 from your weapon, +10 from your item, and your rocket would be scattering very little. So that perk we talked about previously, +10 for not moving, that's to offset the fact that they're taking away the weapon bonus, because the weapon bonus shouldn't apply to a rocket. It's because of the limited system of XCOM that it was, and, in real life, or, actual how you would imagine properly, it shouldn't be. Because what you're doing is you're like, I've got a really good chance to hit with my carbine. I put my carbine away, I get my rocket launcher out. Why is my carbine helping me? It makes complete sense from that point of view. It will mean a couple of new things, particularly we'll see Rocketeers probably being less favoured ever so slightly, but there is a nice change later on that I'll mention. Gore's weapons now cheaper and got more ammo. Pulse weapons are slightly more expensive and have a new prerequisite tech. Right, so basically everyone was... The vast majority of people who seem to have got fairly far along or have said, right, go lasers straight away, ignore Gores, get Pulse, and then backfill Gores. Or even just pretty much ignore Gores. Because you didn't need Gores. It took almost the same time as Pulse, almost. And if you're going to get Gores and then buy all the weapons, and then you were going to buy Pulse afterwards, it would be kind of an unnecessary expenditure. What they've done is they've basically changed it to go, okay, let's try and stop people skipping Gores. Because the way the techs work is ballistic, laser, Gores, Pulse, plasma. And what was happening is people were skipping the Gores tech. Now people actually kind of have to get Gores tech, or, they have a longer gap between Pulse and lasers if they don't get Gores, so they're going to have a longer down period. It's understandable. I wonder how it will play out in game, but it's understandable. It makes sense not to have people going, okay, the most optimal way is to skip attack, in effect. Laser and supercapacitor projects are now more expensive. So the laser cannon is a little bit more expensive. That's understandable. It was pretty amazing. Phoenix coil gun gets a bit more damage. Okay, everyone was ignoring it, so I guess maybe giving it more damage makes sense. Flamethrowers now have a mobility. All subsystems like flamethrowers have a mobility penalty, while the mobility bonus granted by arms have been increased to compensate. This basically means that mechs who are outloaded like they were before will have the same move, but if you choose to take off their subsystems, they'll be faster. Which means that you can actually have more utility from mech. You can actually spec a mech to be fast by going, okay, let's ignore subsystems. I like the change, gives you more options. Nice. Removing mobility bonuses from perk trees. There were too many mobility bonuses. Right, so you could have walking servos as an item. You could have, I think it's an SMG, which gives you a walk bonus. You can have arms with walk bonuses. You could have sprinter perk. You're basically having guys who could pretty much move across the map in 2, maybe 3 turns, and that was a bit ridiculous. Very ridiculous. You didn't need people with 25, 30 move, or whatever the hell you could get up to. That's crazy. So taking away taking away the mobility penalty, the mobility bonus from some of the perk options. It's probably a fairly nice change. It stops it being quite so crazy move that you can get. And here we go. Here's the thing I was mentioning about before with Rocketeers. Rocketeers can now use heavy rifles. So Rocketeers tend to have an intrinsically high aim when you pick them because you want to have someone who won't scatter. And then you give them a scope to make sure they won't scatter further. So they're going to have a high aim. And now they can use heavy rifles, which is a good combination because they're going to be high aim, and at a certain high aim, heavy rifles become worth it. I like it. It makes sense, and I think we'll see a lot more Rocketeers running around with scope, rocket, heavy rifle because of that. I mean, it makes complete sense to me. Steam Vents, you now have 2 at campaign start. So it used to be between 1 and 3, and if you had 1, it's basically GG. Not quite, but it would be a massive, massive drawback, because that's a very easy and cheap way to get power. Now, you only have 2. I like the change. It stops it being quite so random for something that, is really kind of important. Chem grenades and alien acid will nullify up to 3 damage resistance. Nice buff to chem grenades. Okay, like it. More ways to deal with damage resistance is nice. Flamethrower panic chances to make it less than perfect. Elerium fuel now increases panic chance. So, previously in Long War 13 and earlier, you'd basically go, flamethrower, okay, everything will panic when I use a flamethrower, and just take all the flamethrowers. You'd basically want to take every flamethrower you could have. Now, especially when dealing with big, nasty critters, you could be like, oh, it's a giant chrysalid of death. Flamethrower, oh, it ran away from me. Now, it's not guaranteed. The way they've said it means that flamethrowers are going to be a very high chance of panic, because it says, it's less than perfect. I don't know how much that's going to be. We'll have to see on that one. But you can always take the Elerium fuel to increase panic chances. And ultimately, I think this is probably just going to result in people taking more flamethrowers on missions. It's probably going to result in people taking 2 mechs, both with flamethrowers. Because, flamethrowers are still pretty amazing ways of dealing with some of the nasty things that there are. Daily Result provide 1 meld as loot, and floaters and heavy floaters provide a bit more meld. Great, because if you're doing really well, you're only getting 3 meld per canister, and you'd only be able to get maybe, 1 or 2 canisters per mission if you were doing really well. And not all missions would have canisters. It meant that you'd be very held back during the late game if you're doing well. That's a nice change, being able to get meld from other things. And defeating the Exalt base provides a lot more bonus meld. Again, another nice bonus to be actually going on the Exalt base mission. Like it. Here we go. Here's one I'm not so sure about. Increase the starting roster to 40 soldiers and the cost of recruiting a rookie to 25. 30 on advanced difficulties. Working numbers may alter these before release. So basically what they've done is saying, instead of starting with less rookies and cheap rookies, $10 for a rookie, now you start off with 40, but they're more expensive, i.e. don't lose them. What they're saying is rookies are more valuable, do not screw up and lose the rookies. And, to people like me, don't run a rookie to get the meld knowing the rookie's going to die. Yeah, okay, it's understandable. But I think 25 is still a little bit too high. I hope that's been changed down a bit. It says 25 here. It says it could change, though. I hope it's not 25. 25 is very expensive. That's 250% original cost. It's a very high increase. Really high. Now for $100 you get 4 rookies. And remember, random stats means that those rookies could really suck. Whereas before you'd get 10 and then you'd just go, right, I'm just going to ignore the crap ones. I'm not so convinced at 25. Maybe 20. I could get behind 20 maybe. 15, yeah, sure, I can understand that. 15 to 20, somewhere about there seems to be okay to me, especially considering they've made more starting rookies. But 25 does seem a little bit high. I have to wonder how that'll play out. I guess we'll see. All Exalts lose... Oh, wait. Increased engineers need to build the Nexus. Okay, so that means we'll see a later satellite Nexus, because what you normally see is people go... You start off with 1 satellite uplink, you get a 2nd satellite uplink, you research alien computers, you get a Nexus. What we'll see now is a slight delay for that 3rd satellite building. So the Nexus will be built slightly later now. I don't know how much later. It doesn't say, but we'll have to see on that one. It'll be interesting. I think it's just a way to stop people getting to the extra satellites for the extra content quite so quickly. All Exalt lose 2 HP on normal and 1 HP on classic. I've already implemented that in my Long War 13, so that's a nice change. Yeah, Exalts did need to be slightly nerfed. Council missions won't always be thin men in regular pods, and they can drop down anywhere. Okay, so council missions were always a very samey, and this is a nice change. Council missions were always like, oh, we need to run here and defuse the bomb. It's going to be all thin men. Let's all take a medkit. It would be the standard loadout. Everyone would take a medkit. This is a nice change. Adds more variety. But I don't know what the consequences are going to be for how hard council missions are now going to become. If you get some crazy pods, or you get something really bad, it might mean that a mission just becomes suddenly a very high slogfest. I mean, the thing about the council missions beforehand is they had a timer that you had to roll on with them, whether it be the timer being bombs, or you had to defend this dude who you need to get to the exit. Not so much with that one. It's more the bomb one I'm concerned about. If you get something that can slow you down on that could be a very quick GG on that mission. But we'll see. Also, the dynamic drops. It's going to be interesting, dynamic drops. I like the ability for them to change up the drops a bit. It changed the regularity. It's nice to have that. But I don't know if that's going to have weird unintended consequences. You could have people dropping into some places that make them basically like, oh, he dropped there. Well, so-and-so's going to die now. In theory, it should be fine. But I'm always a bit aware of, unintended consequences of having randomized locations and stuff. Particularly when that resulted in pods being right next to us at spawn in Long War 13. Ugh. Science Spire on a panicked soldier will grant that soldier yellow move only, like Revive. It used to give you basically, oh, the person's panicked, oh, we can get their entire turn back by using Science Spire. They've kind of nerfed Science Spire now, so that you can only go, okay, they're panicking, I need to get them out of there. They get, one move, they get the yellow move, they don't get anything else. It makes sense. I think this update, by the way, has been kind of heavy on the nerfing of Psi. It's actually made Psi abilities in general a little bit harder. And a little bit less good. I'm not convinced about that. Psi abilities, from what I've seen, I haven't played a lot of them in Long War, did seem to be a bit... They were okay. They weren't, like, amazing. Which is a little bit of a shame. But it's understandable. We'll see how it plays out. Added explicit warning to equip top soldiers if a UFO or an Exalt HQ... a UFO on an Exalt HQ assault mission is detected. Okay. This should have been in vanilla. This is now in Long War. Long War has surpassed vanilla in this one. It's absolutely brilliant. This resulted in me, when I was playing in Enemy Within for the first time, it resulted in me having to do a fairly late mission with ballistic weapons, which was really annoying and, kind of a pain, because why are we using ballistic weapons? Now, it'll say, okay, there's someone coming to attack you, equip your top soldiers. Really nice. Until this point in Long War, people had been going... who knew about Long War had been going, okay, I think this ship is coming for us, okay, we need to equip. And people who didn't know that, people who just playing the mod without, reading a lot of the background, because you had to read quite a lot of background to know all these things about Long War, people would basically get a GG, because you cannot do the base assault if you have ballistic weapons late in the game. You just die. And that was an unfair GG on those people. And it's something that was definitely a problem in original Enemy Within. Lovely change, absolutely adore it. Brilliant, yes, give me it now. Aliens get 50 days of free research if you incorrectly accuse an assault country. That's to stop you accusing a country that's already pulled out of the XCOM project, because the penalty is they pull out. Now it's they pull out. Oh, they've already pulled out. Okay, well, you still have the 50-day research thing. So yeah, don't incorrectly accuse countries. Aliens getting a 50-day research bonus is ridiculous. That's a lot of research. Rookies may no longer be covert operatives. Yeah, it stopped me doing... oh, rookie gone mission, I don't care if we have to pull out. Especially considering that, leaving a soldier behind is only a quarter of what it used to be. However, early in the game, you can have a lot of fatigued people and so on, and you might not be able to send anyone but a rookie. Or it might be someone really, really, really not suited. So, someone with very low move or something. I'm dubious about how this will play out in the early game. I mean, it makes sense for later game, but in the first maybe 1 or 2 covert op missions, this could be an issue, because you cannot send fatigued soldiers on covert ops. I'd like if they could do that. The ability to send fatigued soldiers on covert ops might help balance that, but I can understand this change. Panic units caught out of cover will no longer get a free move to cover, eliminating the advantage of panicking the situations. Okay, so basically when someone was standing in the open or someone was flanked and they were shot at and they panicked, they would run to new cover, which was good. And you'd be like, yes, I'm glad they panicked, I guess. Now they'll stay there. I'm not convinced that that's great. But it's understandable. It doesn't want panicking to be a good thing for you. It doesn't want panicking to be advantageous. But I'm a little bit like, oh, because it will leave soldiers out in exposed situations, panicked in exposed situations, and it's like, okay, so they're panicked and they're flanked, or they're exposed. This is going to be a lot harsher than it used to be. The counter to that is someone says, oh, you Science Spire. I mean, you might not have Science Spire by that stage, or you might not have someone with Science Spire in the squad. Increased cash reward from Exalt missions. Yes, Exalt missions are too hard, or were too hard, or, require... Basically, they put up a lot more resistance than what you would get back from them. Now they've increased the cash reward. I like it. Exalt missions, covert extractions. Right, so covert extractions, instead of being multiple squads of the same size, they've changed it so that there will be multiple squads of very small, i.e. maybe even one person, and they'll be like scouts. And then there'll be one very large pod, which will be the QRF, which is Quick Reaction Force. And the idea being that they are basically, standing around here. They're, just like, okay, if you scouts see something, we'll come and fight. And then if you trigger the big pod, it's like, wow, okay, now probably time to leg it. So the idea in Long War 14 with covert ops now, the ones that you basically have to hit the 2 transmitters and run away, is take battle scanners and be very careful. Do not trigger that big pod. Do not trigger that big pod, because you will regret it. Marksman scopes now reworked to give squad sight to scouts. They were a bit crap before. Now I actually think they're still crap, because... Alright, the important thing about scouts is scouts get shot at. And scouts do flanking, etc. Blah, blah, blah. But scouts get shot at. Now, you won't flank too far away from your squad, because you'll risk triggering more fog of war and more aliens. In addition, you want to be close so that you can get shot at. You don't need squad sight for that. I don't see the point in taking squad sight and marksman rifle and strike rifles. It seems completely pointless to me. I can understand where they're coming from, and maybe they could be a backup sniper, but then they suck as a backup sniper. I've never seen the purpose of that loadout, and it seems that they go, right, well, we need to do something with the marksman scope. How about we make it do this? And I don't think that works. I'll be interested to see if anyone's got actually an alternate opinion on, like, oh, actually, you could use it like this. I don't see the point in it that much, but we'll see. Field Medic now gives you 1 free medkit charge, regardless of what you're holding, and +1 charge for carried medkits. Okay, so instead of getting +2 charges for carried medkit, you now have +1 charge for carried medkit, and you get a free medkit charge, regardless of what you're carrying. Packmaster also applies, so that you will have +1 charge for Field Medic, and then +1 charge for Packmaster. Packmaster also applies to the free charge, so you will have 2 charges, even without carrying a medkit, if you have Field Medic and Packmaster. Okay, I'm not sure where this change is coming from. It doesn't seem to change a lot. I guess it means that if you had Packmaster and Field Medic, you would have 2 free medkits without having to take any items. So in theory, you could have a medic who didn't need to take medkits. You could, take smoke grenades or something. I guess that's where it's coming from. In which case, it's a nice optional choice. It gives you more flexibility with medics. Okay, cool. Base defense is now 8 XCOM soldiers and 6 base security personnel, rather than 6 XCOM soldiers and 8 personnel. Thank you. Enemy within was 6 and 8. And until now, Long War has kept 6 and 8, despite the fact that the base defense has been made much harder, and that the base defense... the base defense was much harder, and Long War basically said bigger squads. That was one of Long War's, big things. It's bigger squads. Make it more like the original XCOM. It didn't really make sense that you were fighting with a very limited squad. It's nice that they've changed it up to 8 now. I like that addition. Balances out some more, and also fits with the rest of Long War, especially considering that they are attacking your base where you all are. Makes sense to me. Walking servers can now be used by everyone. Gives you more, options to get more, utility out of it. More people can be changed, and also anyone with really low move can be compensated for. Thin men use acid levels often. Nice, because previously if you found a big pod of thin men, you could end up just, seriously, you could have a turn where more than half your squad was acided, and you'd be like, okay, I guess we'll hunker most people. And yeah, that's nice. They're spitting us off, and spitting got a bit annoying. Mayhem perk added to engineers, and applies to grenades, and it gives +1 damage for frags and needles, and +2 for alien. Good, makes engineers a nice, viable combat option. Until now, personally, I think engineers had been brilliant for using them for their defensive buffs. So taking dense smoke and then just filling them full of smoke grenades. Now they actually take the ability to actually do more damage. I like that change. Makes sense. You can actually use them to be damaging. Cool. I dig that. Students on terror missions will move around a lot more. So yeah, I've complained previously about, a Chrysid runs up to a civilian, and civilian's just there going, and it's like, well, seriously, it's purple, it has talons, and it has a gaping maw dripping with bile. It has a maw. If it has a more, you don't want to be next to it. It's a nice change that civilians run around more, and it also means you have to, play a bit more, flexibly in these missions to be able to, chase after civilians or whatever. I like it. Makes a lot of sense. I don't like civilians being static objects. They're not. They're people. They should move around. It makes complete sense for them to move around. It shouldn't be sort of basically a capture the flag game. I like the change. XP, you no longer gain XP for successful use of contested powers. Instead, you get it per mission, basically. Yep. Should hopefully stop it being so grindy late game and taking advantage of little, loopholes to basically keep casting the same psychic powers on a sectoid who you've got locked down or something. Yeah, like the change. No, it was an outsider because they'd heal. Bull Rush does less damage but smashes through more stuff. Bull Rush is an ability that a lot of us hate, and honestly, Bull Rush, i.e. bullshit. Honestly, I think the biggest problem with it is its range. Is that if you're behind full cover, they will charge you from halfway across the map. It's nice that the damage has gone down, because previously it was doing like 12 damage through full cover. 12 damage? For 100% chance to hit? Ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. I really dislike that ability. It's nice that they've nerfed it a little bit. I don't know how much it's gone down. I hope it's more than like 1 or 2. I hope it's gone down a bit more. But I don't know what they mean by smashing through more stuff. I assume it means, they can go through more cover. I didn't know that was a limitation on it. But I really hope that at some point they reduce the range, because it's kind of a little bit ridiculous. It's bad enough that it stops you from using high cover. It doesn't need to do extra damage as well. Berserkers receive muscle fiber density. Basically, they can jump. So they can get onto gantries and tops of buildings. Instead of being able to game them and, just go onto a building rooftop and shoot down at them, they will now jump and kill you. A lot of people dislike this change. Personally, I think it comes down to, do you like beating the game by gaming the game, or do you like beating the game because, it's just fun, you're doing it for fun? Personally, I very much fall into the fun category. I want to play with the game. I want the game to give me a challenge, but the game to be fair to me. I don't want to have to, game bits of the AI. I want to be able to just get myself immersed in it. I don't have to game parts of the AI and, try and use issues with it. And the problem was, Berserkers are a little bit powerful, particularly when you find a large group of them. And people were just getting onto tops of buildings and gantries and then shooting them down. So what they've done is they said, okay, Berserkers can now jump. Personally, my response to that is, okay, I don't mind that. It stops people taking advantage of them. Can we at least nerf them down somewhat to compensate? But they haven't been nerfed at all, much other than Bull Rush. So we'll see how this plays out. Honestly, it won't affect me that much. I've not tended to do the whole gaming them system very much. But it could mean the Berserkers just own everyone. Meld positioning on maps is randomized. Again, more variety to maps, nice. Overfill gets some help. Basically, the Overfill will have damage reduction per unit nearby. So basically, once you get the Overfill at the end of the game, it'll have elites around it, and if you kill the elite mutants, its damage resistance will go down, and you can finally kill it. So instead of just going, okay, ignore the elite mutants, I'm going to kill the Overethereal, you have to kill the elite mutants to be able to kill the Ethereal, because you need the damage reduction. Council mission rewards have been adjusted, including those in Newfoundland. Newfoundland, off the top of my head, now has cash bonus, which is nice, because previously it was just panic reduction, and it's like, okay, so why do I go? Also, off the top of my head, Newfoundland, it's not documented in here, but I'm pretty sure Newfoundland now has a penalty for not going. I think it's a panic increase if you don't go. So, expect more people having to go on Newfoundland, and expect actually getting some stuff out of it. That'd be kind of nice. Perk trees and item costs and project costs have been adjusted. Okay. Just be aware of that. Be aware of your favourite perk trees may be a bit changed. Europe now provides discount to officer training school projects, and Asia no longer provides the officer training school discount. Okay, so basically with Beta 13, people had gone, well, okay, the way they've changed labs, screw Europe. No one was going for Europe. Europe was a lost cause. And everyone was going Asia, because Asia was too good. Foundry and officer training school. Brilliant. Really nice reduction in costs there. What we now have is officer training schools being taken away from Asia and put back to Europe. We'll see how this plays out. Personally, I'm wondering, because we might see people going, okay, well, we'll go for the thing that everyone was saying was second best, America, because, discount to interceptors. Or people might go back towards Europe. You might see some people saying, okay, well, let's try going to Africa, because, money. 30% extra money. Personally, I'm tempted to try the Europe route. But it's also possible that, America or Africa could become common. I'd like to see people, debating that out. And I was going to post a thread on Reddit about it today saying, okay, what do people think? But there's already one. Someone obviously has the same idea. Danger zone and suppression now covers a wider area. Good. Suppression technically is meant to cover an area. It didn't. Well, it did, but it was such a small area it didn't matter. And danger zone was meant to increase it, but then it was still such a small area it didn't matter that much. Wider area, love the change. Makes that combo actually useful. Exalt no longer spawn in target volume on capture and hold missions. Yes! People who've seen my XCOM playthrough might remember that one. There was some swearing and rage. I'm glad that's changed. Good. Nice fix. And yeah, that's the change. We've been going quite a while, so I apologise, but you know, that's with something like Long War, even small changes make such a large difference. Anyway, I've been EnterElysium. My Long War series will be starting up again very shortly, possibly tomorrow or today. Probably tomorrow, I think. And that'll be fun. It'll be running along with RimWorld Needs You. I didn't intend to run them side by side. I actually thought that, you know, XCOM was going to be maybe 2 weeks away, but 14 is here, and it's got some lovely changes, so 14 it is. So yeah, look forward to that, and yeah, if you're not subscribed, consider subscribing to be able to see that, and, you know, if you've liked this video, like the video, etc., you know how to drill. You've been on YouTube long enough. I've been EnterElysium, and stay shiny.